let's talk about the latest geopolitical showdown. The United States versus China, which also translates to Donald Trump versus Xi Jinping.
Chinese exports surged by a third to $264 billion in April from a year ago, as global demand for Chinese electronics, medical equipment, and clothes increased around the world.
He'll take office next month, but he's already in action, shaking things up. The president-elect is laying the groundwork for a trade war. With all his threats and tough words, it looks inevitable.
Well, what it's done is it's thrown spring planting into chaos. The ironic joke in ag circles right now is that last week the USDA released a forecast saying that this year soybean acreage was going to top corn for the first time in 35 years. Well, that's all in doubt now. Farmers just don't know what to plant.
What unfolds when China begins retaliating against the United States? Well, it has already begun. China has reduced $690 billion worth of imports. That's right, $690 billion. This action is a stark reminder to the US about who truly holds influence. But can America even withstand this? Or has China finally achieved what others have only imagined? Let's explore what happens when the world's largest purchaser of your crops decides you're no longer their priority. Panic sets in. For years, American farmers thrived on the certainty that China was their most dependable customer. The US reigned supreme in soybean exports, with China as the loyal buyer. But now, China is swiftly pulling back, from 40% of US soybean imports in 2016 to a mere 18% by 2024. That's not a slight adjustment, it's a seismic shift. And who's filling the gap? Brazil. So what happens next? US farmers are grappling with the fallout of decades-long trade reliance crumbling beneath them. States like Iowa and Nebraska face increasing bankruptcies, job losses, and financial devastation. The backbone of America's economy, the agricultural sector, is now in a fight for survival. While there's hope that other markets might emerge, the harsh reality is that no one can match China's colossal purchasing power.
States used to be the world's largest soybean exporter. In 2013, Brazil surpassed the US in soybean shipments for the first time. Since then, Brazil's share of the global soybean trade has continued to grow, with Brazilian soybean exports reaching a record 3.7 billion bushels in 2023. At the same year, American soybean exports were reduced to 1.8 billion bushels, just half the Brazilian soybean export volume.
This turmoil isn't confined to rural America. The ripple effects of China's reduced soybean trade are disrupting industries connected to agriculture, from machinery manufacturers to logistics companies and even small businesses reliant on the trade. When a trading partner as significant as China steps back, the entire supply chain starts to falter. And this is merely the beginning. Now let's zoom out for the bigger picture. While China is distancing itself from US agriculture, it's simultaneously fortifying alliances elsewhere. Brazil, for instance, is already reaping significant benefits. And China isn't just diversifying its markets, it's investing heavily in cutting-edge technologies and infrastructure to enhance its agricultural capabilities. This isn't a fleeting change. It's a strategic and enduring realignment of China's trade and investment priorities. If China can disengage from soybeans, what's next? Technology. How will the US safeguard its dominance in the semiconductor industry when China is focused on self-reliance? What do you do when your technological edge is jeopardized by tariffs and your dependence on a rival's products becomes a liability? You adapt. You innovate. And that's precisely what China is doing. For decades, the US dominated the semiconductor industry, shaping the tech narrative and controlling the market. But tariffs on Chinese imports have only fueled China's resolve. Their Made in China 2025 initiative is fully underway, with Chinese tech giants committed to producing their chips. They've already started reducing imports of semiconductors from US companies like Qualcomm and Micron. The US believed its semiconductor superiority would grant leverage in the trade war. Instead, it propelled China to accelerate its advancements. Not only is China strengthening its semiconductor sector, but it's also positioning itself as a future tech leader. Semiconductors are the cornerstone of modern economies, powering technologies like 5G and AI. As China builds its capabilities, the US risks losing its grip on this vital industry. You'd expect China to struggle under these circumstances, right? Instead, it's the US feeling the heat. As China reduces its dependency on US technology, demand for American products declines. This isn't just about financial loss, it's about surrendering leadership in the global tech race. If China successfully establishes its ecosystem, the US could transition from a leader to a follower in technology. The stakes couldn't be higher, and China is showing no signs of retreating. By bolstering its semiconductor sector, China ensures it won't be vulnerable to future economic pressures or trade conflicts with the US.
Serves two purposes. One is that President Xi has been very concerned with China's being constrained by Western powers in terms of high tech. In his own words, China still has bottlenecks, right, in terms of chips, advanced materials, machine tools, and so on and so forth. All of these are so important for China's military modernization as well, because the PLA will be celebrating its 100-year anniversary in 2027. So no one can know what's going to happen in the future, but I think President Xi is very determined to do this.
It's a clear message to the world. China is no longer merely a consumer of American technology, it's emerging as a formidable competitor on the global stage. And what about energy? Before we proceed, let us ask, are you enjoying the video? If so, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more insights on China's growth, power, and influence worldwide. Let's continue. China has been gradually shifting away from US energy. Rather than relying on American LNG, it's forging substantial energy partnerships with Russia and Qatar. In 2024, China secured a historic 30-year natural gas agreement with Russia. Yes, 3 decades. That's not an anomaly, it's a calculated strategy. Additionally, China inked a $60 billion LNG deal with Qatar. This isn't solely about cost efficiency, it's about severing energy dependency on the US and ensuring long-term energy autonomy. For the US, this is nothing short of a disaster. Once a dominant force in the global LNG market, America now sees its influence waning as China diversifies its energy sources. This isn't merely an economic adjustment, it's a strategic geopolitical maneuver. By reducing its reliance on American energy, China ensures it's insulated from future political leverage or price manipulation by the US. It's a clever, strategic move that's leaving US energy sectors in disarray. But this shift in energy is just one part of the story. China's expanding global influence isn't limited to oil and gas. It's about reshaping global trade and challenging the US for supremacy. Let's delve into how China is methodically constructing a new world order, one trade partnership at a time. China's trade relationships with nations worldwide are flourishing. Brazil? Check. Russia? Check. Africa? Check. The Belt and Road Initiative forms the backbone of China's approach to creating a multipolar world. And China isn't merely investing in infrastructure, it's cultivating alliances. By 2023, China's trade with Brazil exceeded $50 billion, and its presence in Africa continues to grow exponentially. Once dominant in these regions, the US is now overshadowed as China emerges as the primary influencer. This isn't solely about economic ties. China is astutely ensuring these regions become independent of US influence. Through these robust trade relationships, China is paving the way to become the next global economic powerhouse. The US, it's been relegated to the sidelines, observing as China reconstructs global trade dynamics. China isn't merely a trade partner anymore, it's a global power reshaping the rules of engagement. Beyond economics, China is cultivating soft power, forging alliances, and positioning itself as a leader of an emerging multipolar world. So can the US prevail against China? The trade war initiated by the US, with tariffs and protectionist policies, has spiraled into unanticipated chaos. While the US aimed to corner China, the outcome is starkly different. China is thriving. Meanwhile, the US is rapidly losing its foothold. Its farmers, tech companies, and energy firms are all bearing the brunt of this conflict. The truth is, the US underestimated China's resilience. While America struggles to adapt, China is several moves ahead. This is no longer just about trade, it's a contest for global supremacy. The US may have started the trade war, but China is strategically poised to win it. Ultimately, China's $690 billion reduction in imports is more than a trade decision. It's a resounding wake-up call. From agriculture to technology to energy, China is overhauling global trade and diminishing its reliance on the US. This isn't merely a market shift, it's a tectonic power transition. We'd like to thank you for sharing your thoughts and opinions in the comments. They never cease to amaze us. As China rises and the US struggles to keep pace, what's next? Will the US fight to reclaim its dominance, or will it trail behind China's ascent? Share your perspective in the comments below. Do you see China dominating global trade? If you'd like more content like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for exclusive videos on China's remarkable growth and global influence. Stay tuned for our next video.